it says host disabled participants. Oh, here we go. Thank you for that kind introduction. And yes, I'm Danny Gossett. I'm a program officer within the Division of Kidney, Urologic, and Hematologic Diseases within the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases at the National Institutes of Health. And I will be providing an overview of the NIDDK SBIR program. My take-home message about our program is that the NIDDK supports investigator-initiated science, that is, projects that you define rather than soliciting projects in a specific area, with just a few exceptions. As such, some of the material will be somewhat generic to the NIH SBIR programs, but I will highlight our mission, funding opportunities, and some relevant related programs. So the NIH consists of 27 institutes and centers. The missions and sizes of the NIH institutes and centers, or ICs, are quite diverse, spanning areas or fields from cancer to aging to global health to the most fundamental science, and with budgets ranging from hundreds of millions to several $billion. These missions are established in law, and each IC receives an annual appropriation from Congress with which to carry out its mission. So the research mission of the NIDDK is quite broad. It includes many chronic, common, consequential, and costly diseases, from diabetes to digestive diseases to acute and chronic kidney diseases. To address this mission, the NIDDK includes 3 scientific divisions. As I mentioned, I work with a division of kidney, urologic, and hematologic diseases whose mission includes chronic kidney disease, polycystic kidney disease, acute kidney injury, non-malignant urological diseases, and some non-malignant hematologic diseases. And the NIDDK has SBIR program directors for each of these divisions who can advise you on the fit of your project for our mission and identify appropriate funding opportunities. And I'll include a link to some contact information toward the end. So the SBIR and STTR programs are one of the largest sources of early stage capital for technology commercialization in the United States. These programs allow US owned and operated small businesses to engage in federal research and development that has a strong potential for commercialization. The SBIR program funds early stage small businesses that are seeking to commercialize innovative biomedical technologies, and the STTR program is similar to the NIH SBIR program, but requires that the small business formally collaborate with the research institution. And there are additional differences related to PI employment and the minimum levels of research or analytical effort defined by the budget for the small business and for the research institution. And additional background information can be found on the NIH SBIR website at these pages. So as I mentioned, the NIDDK primarily supports investigator-initiated projects, and applicants have proposed innovative technologies across a range of technology categories. These statistics here are from fiscal year 2019 and include 86 competing SBIR STTR awards to 81 companies. Projects included development of drugs, including small molecules, proteins, cell-based technologies, devices, diagnostics, research tools such as tissue chips and animal models, software and health IT, simulation tools, and more. And in fact, some innovative technology really spans these categories. For example, a closed loop technology like an artificial pancreas system. Federal agencies with extramural research budgets over 100 million, like the NIH, are required to set aside 3.2% of their budget for SBIR, and those with research budgets over 1 billion are required to set aside 0.45% of funds for STTR. So for NIDDK in the prior fiscal year, this amounted to 60.8 million for SBIR and 8.5 million for STTR. So the SBIR and STTR programs are phased, with the typical starting point being a phase 1 grant application. The objective of phase 1 is to establish the technical merit, feasibility, and commercial potential of the proposed research or R&D, and to determine the quality of the performance of the small business prior to awarding further federal support in phase 2. The objective of phase 2 is to continue these research and R&D efforts that were initiated in phase 1, and funding is based on the progress of the results achieved in phase 1 and the scientific and technical merit and commercial potential of the proposed project. You may have heard of phase 3. The objective of phase 3 is for the small business to pursue commercialization objectives. The NIH SBIR and STTR programs do not fund phase 3. And the budget caps that you see on and the award lengths that you see on this slide are statutory guidelines, but we have significant flexibility. And the NIDDK will generally accept budgets up to $300,000 total cost in phase 1 and up to $2 million in phase 2. So typically up to $1 million per year for projects that fall within one of what are known as the budget waiver topics that can be found in the Appendix A of the annual program descriptions and research topics document that you can find linked in any of the omnibus or parent funding opportunity announcements. So not all applicants follow this traditional phase 1 then phase 2 path. There are additional application types and programs that extend beyond phase 2 as well. So in a fast track model, both the phase 1 and phase 2 grant applications are submitted and reviewed together as one application, and transition from phase 1 to phase 2 is based on review of a continuation package by the NIH rather than going to back to peer review. And this can reduce or eliminate the funding gap between phases. Direct phase 2, which is available only through the SBIR program, not the STTR, is for small businesses that have already demonstrated the equivalent of a phase 1. So they've already demonstrated scientific and technical merit or feasibility, but have not previously received a phase 1 SBIR or STTR for that project. Phase 2B will follow a successful phase 2 and is for projects that require extraordinary time and effort, including those that require regulatory approval. So this could be complex instrumentation, clinical research, and interventional studies. Commercial potential is strongly considered in the review and in making funding decisions. In the latest omnibus or parent funding opportunity announcements encourage third-party matching for these applications. Generally, the NIDDK will accept phase 2B applications up to $3 million total cost, so about $1 million per year for up to 3 years. The NIDDK is also participating in the commercialization readiness pilot program. So there are separate funding opportunities for this program. These are meant to facilitate the transition of previously or currently funded SBIR and STTR phase 2 and 2B projects to the commercialization stage by providing additional technical assistance and later stage R&D support. It's not typically supported through the phase 2 or 2B grants. So these awards can allow additional effort to be spent on contract work. And the NIDDK generally allows up to $1 million total funding support for the later stage of research and development, and we don't support clinical trials through the CRP program. And in parallel to all of the grant programs, the NIH offers several technical assistance and education programs to help companies move along the path toward commercialization. So getting started to writing one of these grants can be daunting. There are a number of resources offered through institutions and through local and state programs. And you could find a fairly extensive list of resources on the NIH SBIR website. That's the first link down in the bottom left. But you can, of course, also leverage your local network. And I'll provide some advice as to how to identify collaborators and grow your network toward the end. The NIH is also supporting a number of hubs of different flavors that you can explore. For example, these 5 hubs on the left are part of the NIH REACH program, the Research Evaluation and Commercialization Hubs. These Phase 0 proof of concept centers support pilot studies. They're also intended to strengthen technologies through team-based developmental approaches that address the downstream requirements of the technology, including intellectual property, regulatory and reimbursement issues, and business case development. They're intended to facilitate the handoff to the private sector and the formation of strong companies, whether those be to submit SBIR and STTR applications or to pursue other funding support or licensing, et cetera. The NIH also supports regional technology transfer and accelerator hubs for idea states. So collectively, all of these hubs cover a wide geographic area. So I'll reiterate, the NIDDK primarily supports investigator-initiated research. So most applications are submitted to one of the omnibus or parent solicitations. So in brief, you do not need to find a funding opportunity that specifically calls out your research topic. Example projects are provided in our program descriptions and research topics document that accompanies these solicitations. But we really encourage you to come to us with your best ideas whenever they're ready. So these funding opportunities are issued approximately annually. The NIDDK is subscribed to 3 of the 4 of them, excluding the STTR clinical trials. And again, most of our applications are submitted in response to one of these funding opportunities, and these applications are reviewed at the Center for Scientific Review within the NIH. The NIDDK is subscribed to a few targeted funding opportunities. We participate in some trans-NIH programs such as HEAL, and we also have RFAs that are often have RFAs that are related to the type 1 diabetes special statutory funding program. And we also publish a variety of notices of special interest, which reference one of the omnibus or parent solicitations, but indicate a special interest. So again, the special statutory funding program for type 1 diabetes, or the special diabetes program, is a special appropriation for research on the prevention and cure of type 1 diabetes. And the NIDDK administers this program on behalf of the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services in collaboration with multiple NIH institutes and centers and the CDC with input from a coordinating committee. And in the past, as this program also supports SBIR and STTR grants, this program has released RFAs to support the program. And these are a couple examples. There are no active funding opportunities related to this appropriation at the time of this presentation. But if there may be opportunities in the future if this program is renewed. So just for example, in the past, this program has supported new open and closed loop automated technologies for better type 1 diabetes therapy and monitoring, and bioengineering solutions for the advancement of cell replacement therapies for type 1 diabetes. So projects related to the artificial pancreas system, for example. The NIH accepts SBIR and STTR applications 3 times per year. They're reviewed and awarded on an accelerated schedule compared to other grant mechanisms. We generally advise it's useful to reach out to a relevant program officer at the NIH several months before a receipt date. And in that interaction, you can plan to confirm the fit of your project for that IC's mission, confirm the relevance of the funding opportunity, the announcement that you plan to submit in response to, and ask any other questions you may have. And this can be especially important if you're submitting in response to a targeted funding opportunity announcement. So going a little further into our mission, um, I mentioned we have 3 scientific divisions, each with SBIR Program Officers. The Division of Diabetes, Endocrinology, and Metabolic Diseases um, is on this slide. They have their mission includes diabetes prevention, diagnosis, and management, several complications of diabetes, other endocrine disorders, obesity and energy balance, and cystic fibrosis and its metabolic impact. And example technologies include continuous glucose monitoring, um, artificial pancreas systems, smart insulin and glucagon, um, diabetes diagnostics, cell replacement therapies for diabetes, and then wound healing and treatments for diabetic foot ulcers. As I mentioned earlier, the NIDDK has in the past had RFAs pertaining to the artificial pancreas, and several small businesses have contributed innovative technologies to those systems that are now in large clinical trials. NIDDK's division of digestive diseases and nutrition supports research in digestive diseases, including the alimentary tract, liver, and pancreas, nutrition and nutrient metabolism. It also supports research in obesity, energy balance, and neurobiology. Example technologies include technologies for visualizing gastrointestinal motility, clinical assays for genetic causes of liver disease in children, immunoassays for studying iron regulation, wearable technologies for monitoring caloric expenditure, and animal models of metabolic syndrome and obesity. And as I mentioned, I represent the Division of Kidney, Urologic, and Hematologic Diseases, whose mission spans kidney diseases, urinary tract diseases, and disorders of the blood and blood-forming organs. Some SBIR-funded technologies include animal and 3D cell culture models of kidney disease, such as polycystic kidney diseases, PKD, improved measurements of kidney function, technologies that relate to hemodialysis vascular access, such as novel grafts, or approaches to enhance fistula maturation, materials for urinary and dialysis catheters, which resist fouling or prevent other complications, and assays for key iron regulating hormones to diagnose blood diseases. The NIDDK has mapped a variety of programs and funding opportunity announcements to a therapeutic discovery and development pipeline, including early stage activities that may precede a SBIR or STTR project. Many of our programs outside of the SBIR program have been focused very early on disease biology and target identification, but we've also been able to support some assay development and screening, and some chemistry and preclinical validation through R01 grants. And the SBIR program really doesn't prescribe what stage your technology needs to be at in order to apply, but this site could provide some ideas and context. We see the SBIR and STTR programs as one avenue for supporting translation and commercialization of discoveries made through other NIDDK programs. These are programs that originate from the NIDDK and may or may not include an SBIR or STTR component. I'll give one example. So the Kidney Precision Medicine Project is an initiative, a consortium launched by the NIDDK in 2017. Kidney diseases, of course, impose significant public health burden, and we lack effective therapies to treat both acute and chronic kidney disease. Recent advances in technology to interrogate human kidney tissues have set the stage for conducting preclinical medicine in nephrology, which will enable the right treatment to reach the right patient at the right time. And so this program is to improve the histologic, anatomic, and molecular assessment of kidney biopsies, human kidney biopsies, with the long-term goal of creating a kidney tissue atlas defining subgroups of AKI and CKD, identifying the critical cells, pathways, and targets that would ultimately enable new treatments for AKI and CKD. This kidney tissue atlas will help identify those new therapeutic targets. We previously released program announcements for related to kidney precision medicine, and more recently, we released a notice of special interest. This could support technologies that would support the discovery efforts in precision medicine, or it can involve translation of discoveries and technologies into clinical practice. And I'll also mention that we have another notice of special interest from our division focused on next generation approaches to renal replacement therapy, including vascular access. So changing gears a little, and before I wrap up, I'd like to tell you about the NIH Reporter. Reporter is a tremendously useful public tool that I sometimes use when talking with potential applicants. You can apply a variety of filters and search for NIH grants, and I won't go into too much depth, but I would encourage you to explore this tool. For one, you can search for a topic and find out what institutes or centers within the NIH are funding research on that topic. And for that type of search, you might want to modify the fiscal year as the default is to search for active awards. You can filter on SBIR and STTR and explore some data around the funded awards. For example, you could read the public abstract, which may be helpful for understanding or defining an appropriate scope for a phase 1 or phase 2 grant application. You can see other high-level budget information, sometimes what study section reviewed the application, and you could also use this tool to look for collaborators. For example, if you're looking for a small business to work with, or if you have a technology and you're looking for a clinical partner who is experienced in conducting research, this tool could help you find out who has been funded by the NIH in the past. Lastly, if I could leave you with one important message, the program officers here at the NIH are here to help you, so please contact us early when you're contemplating an application. I mentioned that there are 27 ICs and centers institutes and centers that comprise the NIH, and your project may be a fit for the NIDDK or one of the other centers. So when you contact us, please include even an early draft of your specific aims page or a project summary if that's not available. And this will help us make sure you're connected with an appropriate program official who can provide you with accurate information about whether your project's a fit and what relevant funding opportunity announcements there are. This link at the bottom is a link to a vast list of resources, which include some sample applications from which if you're looking to prepare a specific aims page for this initial contact, you could refer to those sample applications. And you can see how it may differ between different types of grants. For example, if you're familiar with writing R01 grant applications, how the aims page for an SBIR or STTR might appear somewhat different. And here are the contacts from for other SBIR program directors within the NIDDK. And here's my email address. Thank you for your attention, and I'm sorry we couldn't all meet in person. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Everyone's welcome to write their questions in the chat box.
So should I just go ahead and read off some of the questions? Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So one of the questions is, are rare pediatric liver diseases a fit for the Division of Digestive Diseases and Nutrition? Quite possibly. I would encourage you to draft a specific aims page or project summary and share it with Chris Densmore is the SBIR program director from that division. Her contact information will be on this at this page linked here, and she can confirm. There are certainly areas of our mission that are projects that could span the mission of multiple institutes and centers. I could imagine a pediatric disease also being of interest to NICHD, and depending on the scope of the technology, the program officials would be equipped to advise you as to where it might be a good fit. The next question is about one of the NOSIs and how is it different from the regular omnibus SBIR. So NOSIs are notices of special interest, and they are not in and of themselves funding opportunity announcements. They reference a funding opportunity, but indicate a priority or interest of the institute. So if you're looking at a NOSI, you'll see toward the bottom some instructions. Basically, you would submit in response to one of the referenced funding opportunities, follow some instructions to indicate that you're also linking your application to this NOSI, and that will flag it for the attention of the program officials when they're making funding decisions. I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure how to answer the question about the synthetic biological system. I'm wondering if that might refer to the prior presentation. And then the question regarding hydrocephalus is again quite specific, and oftentimes the endpoints that are targeted in a study are used to define where the application is assigned. So for example, a project on the cardiac complications of diabetes may be assigned to the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, even though the participants in the study might be may have diabetes. The endpoints may drive the assignment of the application. But again, if you can share your draft specific aims page with me or one of my colleagues within the NIDDK, we can help you get connected to the relevant institute or center. I suspect these very specific examples in the chat might go to another institute or center, just based on my limited understanding of these diseases. And another strategy, just while we await more questions, is I mentioned the NIH Reporter. I think I'm still sharing my screen. If you plug in some of these terms into the text search here, again, you may wish to, actually, let me see if I can add a pointer. In any case, you can select the fiscal year in the upper right and add some text here, and then search or hit submit query, and then there will be the option to visualize the data, and you can see what institutes or centers are funding research in that area. So a question about the phase 0 proof of concept centers. I think and whether these are referring to preclinical efforts only or referring to a phase 0 clinical trial. I would encourage you to visit the websites of these individual centers and look at the opportunities that they are offering. Some of them may be either focused on a particular type of technology or maybe focused on projects at a certain stage. I suspect most of these are toward the earlier stage and not supporting clinical trials, but I'd encourage you to reach out to the individual center to better understand their offerings. There's a question about pay lines and the review scores. That's not information that we're allowed to share. Generally, on the NIH scale, we're looking to support applications that are, again, by the NIH scale, exceptional or outstanding. So these are very low scores. But unfortunately, I can't share that information. Oh, and therapeutic for kidney cancer. So most malignant diseases of the organs that are sort of within the NIDDK mission are assigned to the National Cancer Institute. There may be some exceptions, but kidney cancer, a project focused on kidney cancer would most likely be assigned to the NCI.
Okay, so it looks like there are no more questions. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Gossett. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.